Hello, and welcome to the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation podcast, your go-to platform for critical conversations shaping the future of public service and healthcare access in Africa. I'm your host, Chioma Njoku, the Director of Programs at the Foundation. In a previous episode, we discussed the digital transformation of service delivery, and today we will be exploring how government organizations can achieve this. Specifically, we will discuss the crucial infrastructure needed for public sector digitalization and incredible power of interoperability across ministries. We will also be discussing how everyone, public servants, private sector leaders, non-governmental organizations, and you, our listeners, can play a vital part in this journey. This episode, Building Bridges, Infrastructural Hindrances to Digital Transformation, brings together key stakeholders from the public sector to discuss the challenges and opportunities for making public sector digital transformation a reality. Joining us are two distinguished guests, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, providing perspectives from the heart of the civil service, and Dr. Nasir Shinkafi, Group Head, Technical Services at Galaxy Backbone, GBB. Dr. Magdalene Ajani is a distinguished public servant with a career spanning decades. She began with the Lagos State Health Management Board and became the first full-time consultant ophthalmologist at the State House Medical Center in 2006, where she established a comprehensive eye care team and mentored future specialists. Dr. Ajani served as chairperson of the Medical Advisory Committee, introducing e-clinic consultations. In December 2018, she was appointed Permanent Secretary in the Federal Civil Service and has since then served as Permanent Secretary in different ministries. As Permanent Secretary, Service Policies and Strategies Office, under the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, she played a key role in implementing the Federal Civil Service Strategy and Implementation Plan. She served as Permanent Secretary at the Federal Ministry of Transportation, where she led numerous transformative initiatives until January 2024. Her achievements included the successful implementation of the Federal Civil Service Strategy and Implementation Plan 2021 to 2025, aligning the ministry's goals with the government's 9 priority areas and the medium-term National Development Plan. Under her guidance, the ministry fully digitalized its processes by March 2023, significantly improving operational efficiency. In August 2023, she became the pioneer Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy and currently serves in the Ministry of Interior. A humanitarian, Dr. Ajani led the Fountain of Joy and Comfort Foundation, providing free eye care to over 20,000 Nigerians. She is a fellow of the West African College of Surgeons and the International College of Surgeons, with memberships in several professional institutes. Thank you, Dr. Ajani, and welcome to the podcast. Dr. Nasir Shinkafi is a distinguished IT professional, telecoms consultant, and project management expert with extensive experience driving digital transformation in Nigeria's public sector. He's currently serving as Group Head of Technical Services at Galaxy Backbone and has been instrumental in implementing key initiatives to enhance the nation's digital infrastructure and foster e-governance. With a PhD in wireless communication, Dr. Shinkafi's expertise spans wireless communications, cybersecurity, and project management. He is an Ericsson certified customer project manager, certified business continuity professional, and lead auditor for ISO 9001:2015 and 23301:2019 standards. He has vast experience working with private and public sectors, as well as multinationals, while at Nitel, MTN Nigeria and Uganda, Airtel, Ericsson Nigeria and KSA, NHIS and University Community at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua University, Katsina, and Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto. Prior to his appointment as Group Head, Technical Services to lead the Technical Services Division, he was the pioneer Chief Information Security and Business Continuity Officer of the organization. Dr. Nasir is married with children and plays chess and golf cheerfully during his free moments. Dr. Nasir Shinkafi, welcome to the podcast. Beyond convenience, where service providers and beneficiaries prefer that services can be rendered and received from a place of comfort and ease, digitalization is now also a matter of necessity. With Nigeria's population, it has become impossible for the government to provide efficient and effective services to the public while still operating manual work and service delivery processes. In this wise, the federal government has embarked on a digital transformation journey within the public service to enable digital access to government services, reduce service turnaround time, minimize service errors and data losses, and very importantly, stem corruption. Now, Dr. Nasir Shinkafi, let's set the scene for our listeners. What is Galaxy Backbone, and what was the rationale for setting up GBB in Nigeria?
All right. Thank you very much, Choma, for the introduction, and also most profoundly for asking this very important question. Galaxy Backbone is an IT operator of government, specifically established by the federal government sometimes in 2006 to provide initially broadband services and digital infrastructure to the whole of government in order to have a shared services environment for economy of scale. Today, Galaxy has transformed to become a platform, an enabler, and also an aggregator of services spanning from the service-wide private public sector around the civil service, and at the same time also the pervasive infrastructure can also be leveraged by the entire citizens in the country to access digital services. Now, for this to happen, federal government had actually invested a lot. Part of the investment includes investment in infrastructure such as fiber infrastructure that cut across over 30 states within the country. This infrastructure is actually terminated at the federal secretariats where we serve as a hub to each of these states where it is connected. And at the same time, there is a 4G LTE sites, over 100 of them across all these states. And that gives opportunity, particularly for digital inclusion. Now, the fiber infrastructure is over 6,000 kilometers of fiber across the country. And in order to establish and also, achieve communications within the civil service and at the same time across the states and from wherever you are, Galaxy has also data centers. We have 2 data centers in the country, a Tier 3 and a Tier 4 data center, all uptime certified. Then we have a security operations center that provide digital trust to this infrastructure. And at the same time also, we understand that there is need to have digital literacy across the users and across the members, both the workforce and also the citizens in the country. So professional services are provided in form of training, in form of capacity building, in form of collaborative engagement and consultative engagement. So when you look at all these things kept together, you will see that it is actually a very intentional decision of the federal government to ensure that agencies or organizations such as Galaxy Backbone come into the ecosystem and to be able to provide support where access to some of these facilities, especially the cloud infrastructure that we have, allow Nigerians to have access to an environment that obviously would have cost a lot. Leveraging collaborative engagement and partnership with the private sector, multinational organizations, and also OEMs that provide, some productivity environment that will make it easier to access digitalization and digital platforms. So we see ourselves in Galaxy as that enabler, as that platform, and as that aggregator where all the services can come together and people will utilize them seamlessly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shinkafi, for that elaborate description of your responsibilities in Galaxy Backbone. And now that we are clear on that, from your expertise and experience in providing technical services to public and private organizations, what would you say, in your opinion, are the foundational infrastructure requirements for a ministry trying to digitalize, and what role does GBB play in supporting these ministries to meet the requirements?
Okay, so very interesting. Today, we realize that as a result of series of conversations and engagement, particularly with the core civil service, it is very evident that we look at the way NIN is to the general public. That is actually the way email is to civil service. So when you have a working internet, an effective email address, and then an automated system, I believe that is the foundation through which a lot of digitalization can happen. So, and this is where Galaxy is now coming strongly, supporting the current administration and particularly the current head of civil service of the Federation through the Federal Civil Service Strategy Implementation Plan 2020-2025 to ensure that all civil servants and of course public servants have access to a working and effective email, and at the same time also have access to the enterprise content management system that will allow citizens to work seamlessly, freely, effectively, in a secure manner, and from wherever they may be. So this, I believe, will be a very good foundation, and particularly also to cap it all. I mean, the capacity building for train the trainer, and also access to information and access to services using e-learning platforms comes in actually to cap it all. To provide digital trust on this, like I mentioned earlier, there is the Security Operations Center that actually sits on top of all this infrastructure to ensure that your correspondence is secured, your correspondence has that integrity that is required, and then you maintain a high level of privacy and confidentiality across government services and operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shinkafi. Narrowing down to individual ministries, Dr. Ajani, while you were the permanent secretary at the Federal Ministry of Transportation, you successfully automated the work processes of the ministry up to a point where you could work from anywhere in the world, and work did not have to stop because you were out of the office physically. That was such a significant feat in the federal civil service. I also recall that you moved from that ministry to the office of the head of the civil service of the Federation, where automated work processes were also being carried out. How would you describe or compare your general comfort and efficiency with work during the manual era and the digitalization era, considering that you have been in the service for about 3 decades and worked manually for most of this period? Can you also share some benefits you derived from this new model?
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation for the opportunity to share my experience with our listeners. I've been in both the state and federal service for about 32 years of my work life, and of course working majorly manually before the digitization in 2023. And all I can say is that the difference is as clear as day and night. And the digital workspace, as we all know, gives a lot of room for flexibility to work. So it also gives a lot of comfort and higher efficiency. Working virtually means that I can work from anywhere, any location, be it that I'm being driven in the car, I'm waiting at an airport lounge to board the next flight. I just pick out my laptop or my tablet and I'm clearing work while on the go. So for me, it's a very remarkable thing to happen in public service. And being a medical doctor, if I also want to look at the health angle, it definitely reduces a lot of health hazards where I have to be breathing in dust from old files that have probably been archived or kept in the registry for a while. And of course, different people are handling the files with different infections that could be transmitted through the papers. That, of course, is not a possibility when you work digitally. So for me, it is a plus. And beyond that, if I have to take my manual files home, I have to carry some extra luggage and possibly even transport them with me when I'm traveling, as I used to do when I was in Ministry of Transportation, and have to juggle work with project inspections and all that. I still remember clearly how I used to pay money to freight 2 or 3 Ghana must go bags of files with me to Lagos, and we'll have to be working at the end of project inspection, ship them back to Abuja by flight the next morning. I mean, those were a lot of Herculean times to go through. So, yeah, those are the clear differences between manual and digital working. And I'm grateful that we are getting there as a public service in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ajani. As a follow-up to that, now you are the Ministry of Interior, which is yet to achieve digitalization, like the ministries you're coming from. This is your third ministry within a year. We can say you're going from ministry to ministry, digitalizing work processes. So please, share with us, what are some of the infrastructure gaps you're facing within your current ministry? And what steps are you taking to bridge these gaps?
Yeah, thank you so much. I haven't tested good life with digital work platform. I don't think I'll ever settle so long to work manually. So for me, as soon as I resumed the Ministry of Interior, I had to look at the best ways to fast track our coming online. And of course, there are a lot of infrastructural gaps in the ministry. I want to subgroup them into hardware infrastructure, where I'll be talking about the computers, the laptops, tablets availability, internet availability, and even the optimization. So for Ministry of Interior, we don't even have 30% of the computers that we need. Yes, Galaxy Backbone provides internet service. You all are witnesses to what just happened to me a few minutes ago. So we need to optimize the internet services that Galaxy Backbone is providing for the Ministry of Interior. And then software infrastructure, talking about the ECDMS app that we need to work with, and also the integration of the standard operating procedures. You know, these are gaps that are existing. Somebody had attempted to install an EDMS system in Ministry of Interior in the past. And so we are not condemning what has been done, but we need to look at what is going on and see how best to use it. And then, of course, we talk about ICT training of staff in the ministry and the creation of a project management team that we have to drive this process. So none of this is really in existence per se. We do have a division of ICT under the Planning, Research and Statistics Department, but we do not have a project management team as we speak to drive the process of enterprise content management deployment. And there is no existing ECN charter for guidance of this project or even its implementation. And more importantly, change management also hasn't happened here. And of course, we know the big elephant in the house, talking about finances and resource persons to do this, to make the system work. So these are the gaps that I have identified. But what am I doing? Is it just about looking at the problems and not trying to lift a finger to see how best to do it? No. So what we have done was to do as-is assessment as soon as I resumed, looking at our hardware and software that we currently have in the ministry. And we have been able to document that in terms of having a good inventory of the number of computers and laptops that we have, what is functional, what we probably need to upgrade, and what we need to meet the needs of the entire staff to be able to start working on enterprise content management. So we do have that inventory right now. And we have also looked at the previous EDMS installation that was done, because over 4.5 million pages of files have been scanned and documented and archived. And then a software was actually installed, and we've had a conversation. The vendor has been invited in to look at the software again to probably optimize it. And then we look at it because they said they have upgraded. So they are going to be giving us the latest version of their software. And then we should be able to say if this is going to be enough to meet our needs to transit from EDMS to ECMS. So that is ongoing. But at the same time, we are also engaging other vendors who already have apps that are being used in other ministries. We have done a study tour to at least two of the ministries where some of the apps have been deployed and seeing the workability. We have developed our ECM project charter as a Ministry of Interior, and we are working from there. SOPs were prepared previously. We are also reviewing the SOPs to be able to update it for us to be to get it integrated into the ECM workflow. Then, in terms of the internet provision, we're already engaging Galaxy Backbone. Dr. Shinkafi, remember, we had a meeting about 3 weeks ago, and they have done a assessment for us in the ministry and trying to see how best to optimize the service so that we can say that, yes, our internet is up and running at good speed and all. So we are there. We are doing a lot at the same time, and we are hoping that in the next couple of months, the story in the Ministry of Interior will change for the better. I look forward to it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Dr. Shinkafi spoke about how Galaxy Backbone is providing email addresses and internet services. Just wanted to find out, backtracking. Did GBB play any role in the automation that you did at the Ministry of Transportation?
Oh, sure. We actually worked quite extensively with Galaxy Backbone. As far as I was concerned, they provided our internet services, and I want to commend them because it's not always about criticizing when people have one or two deficiencies, but also it's good to commend when they do great job. I remember getting to Ministry of Transportation. Our LAN was old and outdated, as old as the building itself, and the capacity of our LAN was like 4 mph. And I remember that when they came and did the assessment, they totally renovated or changed virtually the whole of the LAN and added Wi-Fi to it. And we moved as much as up to 100 mph. He's the technical person, so he'll be able to correct me if I'm making any mistake. But we moved to a capacity that we were able to work very efficiently using the Galaxy Backbone internet service provision, either as LAN or as Wi-Fi. And we also, of course, we paid a fee for that. It wasn't done free, but it's fine. It was good enough to support our workflow. Beyond that, they also created a support team for the Ministry of Transportation. We had some officers from Galaxy Backbone within the ministry, and the business management team leader then, Mr. Chike, was only a phone call away. And it was quite helpful because whatever it was, they identified it way ahead of time and they supported it. And I can clearly remember that in the 1 year or so that I spent there using the enterprise content management, we only had a few hours of downtime. And this was resolved within a few hours. I'm not exaggerating. It couldn't have been more than 4 hours. And also in terms of our data storage, being the government entity that should store all data for government, our platform was hosted with Galaxy Backbone. And of course, all the security things were put to prevent any form of hacking of the software. And I must say that we never had any hacking issues. And I'll commend them for that. I definitely recommend them for that. We never had a time that somebody hacked into our workflow platform, and that was quite commendable. So they were actually the people that stood solidly behind us. We didn't use any private entity for both our storage and the internet service. So it was great working with them, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to replicate same in Ministry of Interior.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me come back to you, Dr. Shinkafi. What role is Galaxy Backbone playing in ensuring that ministries can achieve full digitalization by December 2025, considering that is the timeline set in the Federal Civil Service Strategy and Implementation Plan? With the challenges Dr. Ajani has highlighted in the Ministry of Interior, what can GBB do to help with their digitalization journey?
All right. Thank you very much. Before I respond to this question, please permit me to first appreciate the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Ajani. Part of the initiative from the EPSIP 2020 to 2025 is to ensure that we provide email services to all the civil and public servants, and at the same time also digitalize and automate workflows using an enterprise content management system, provide capacity building and training within the civil service, and at the same time also ensure that online platforms or online services, whether for citizens engagement or for government engagement, are all published online so that they can easily be accessible. So there are some projects going on within Galaxy Backbone to support these initiatives. First and topmost among them is development of an email platform which will now allow all the ministries, particularly the administrators, to be able to onboard all those without email, so that everyone would have an email address. So that project is at the final stage. It is currently being stress tested to be sure that it can accommodate and be able to support the whole of civil service-wide. The second one is we have, through our partnership with private organization, as I mentioned earlier, Galaxy being a platform and enabler, we are partnering with various stakeholders, co-creating solutions and services that meet the expectations and desires of the civil service, cost effectively using indigenous solution and local content. So the ECMS we have, which is tagged OneGov, is an interesting ECSM that most of the ministries have started using today. So through that, we'll be able to automate workflows and allow seamless conversation and correspondence around the ministries and within the civil service. In addition to that, there is also the conference system that will allow virtual meetings to happen. If you recall, Galaxy has been very instrumental and supportive, especially to the Federal Executive Council's meetings during the COVID-19 window. So there were over 100 sessions that happened during that window. So the entire government services at that level did not stop because of COVID. So a similar solution is also available that will allow seamless integration, correspondence, and engagement, and all these are situated within Galaxy Cloud, stored within the Galaxy Data Center, and also surrounded and supported by our digital platform, digital trust platform, which is the Galaxy Backbone National Security Operations Center. Now, when you look about capacity building, training, and also empowerment, we have a department called Research, digital innovation and skills. That department is responsible for training our teaming users within the civil service around the platforms that are co-created or that are already existing, so that there will always be that continuous learning, and to ensure that we have resources that can always support this environment seamlessly. Now there is another project called Government Service Portal, which is called GSP, in partnership with Koika from South Korea, where it is actually at the development stage. That platform will allow citizens to access government services, so that there will be a one-stop shop where all the government services will actually be easily accessible at a go. So once you click on that environment, by the time you get in there, you get all the services there. You can actually access whether it is your name you're looking for, whether it is driving license, your immigration document, passport, SMSC, registration with corporate affairs, and a lot more. All those things will be in a single environment, and that environment will allow what we call the TOOP, TOOP policy. That means the once only policy, where when you consume a single data, you don't need to consume it again. I mean, you don't need to be going to places where everywhere you go, you will have to have, they will request for your thumbprint, they will request for your name, they will request for other information. At least once your data is captured, it sits in there. Then from the central ministry, with the help of our Honorable Minister of Communications, Innovations and Digital Economy, we are going about expanding the existing infrastructure, and at the same time also focusing on giving more energy towards capacity building, leveraging 3MTT intervention, where 3 million technical talents are being trained across the country, across different ecosystems, across different innovative technologies within today, so that they can have adequate capacity to develop and support digitalization, not just within the country, but also serve the entire globe. Then there's also the aspect around digital public infrastructure, where if you look at it today, we have a very good payment system from the NIPS. You have a very good identity system from NIMSI. And therefore, Galaxy is now seen to be an aggregator that will allow data exchange across all these platforms. So that is part of what is being envisaged. And by the time we have a robust DPI within the ecosystem, some of these digital public goods that we mentioned, whether it is through the academia or agriculture or health, finance, and all of them, they will all come together, and then there will be seamless data exchange across all of these sectors, and that will make it even more efficient, and and data flow will be seamless, and that will allow us to also leverage AI, leveraging the AI strategy that is also ongoing within the ministry, so that you can have a robust data exchange, and at the same time also data processing, data collection, and then data gathering and analysis. So through these interventions, we believe that we'll work together closely, and we are determined and committed to support the current administration to ensure that all the ministries have robust network infrastructure, adequate power backups and power supplies, and at the same time also a good high capacity internet, so that they can have access to data that will have to go through the internet. And recall that once you have your infrastructure or any of the services provided through the Galaxy Cloud or situated at the Galaxy Data Center, once you are within the Galaxy network, it makes it easier for you, to do your communication and transactions technically without leveraging and relying on internet 100%. So that makes it also much more easier. And it is through that same ecosystem that we're extending the same opportunity to subnationals, so that the states will also take advantage of this intervention and this initiative of the federal government, so that we can have a whole one inclusive country that and the entire technology space is being utilized for efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity within the government cycle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I was really excited to hear about the capacity building initiatives that you spoke about. I wanted to ask, are these trainings free to the service users? And second thing is, you also mentioned about the 3MTT program, and that has been widely publicized. But I wanted to find out how much of the civil service is being targeted to build their capacity to be able to deliver services more efficiently. Because it seems like when we hear of 3MTT, it's like a public people-facing program. How much of the core civil service is being targeted and trained and equipped to be able to deliver on the job?
Okay, so in order to support the 3MTT program, there is another program in tandem which is powered by GBB and World Bank, which is called Devs in Government. Devs in Government is actually a community of technologists and tech enthusiasts in the Nigerian civil service. So that program is held monthly and in most cases hybrid. And it will amaze you to see a number of innovative ideas and also interventions coming specifically from the civil service. I can assure you that even the development we are doing today are actually being developed in-house by some of the beneficiaries of the 3MTT within Galaxy. And the entire ecosystem actually is for the whole country. And civil service is given high attention. Apart from the 3MTT, remember, NIDA is also providing adequate and adequate focus on training and retraining of civil servants, professional training and also basic trainings. To ensure digital inclusion and digitalization. So the target is to ensure that by 2025 we have a good and very excellent percentage in terms of digitalization and digital inclusion within the country. And that can only happen when capacity building and trainings are sustained. So the trainings are largely in-house sponsored and sometimes through partnership such as Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation. They come in to intervene and support. And we believe that is also a very good mechanism where we have change management and at the same time also, training and retraining and capacity building for sustainability and also for ease of adoption. Thank you.
Now, on the matter of interoperability, one of the gains of digitalization is the ability of government agencies to share data such that service beneficiaries do not need to always submit the same data in every ministry they interface with. And Dr. Shinkafi spoke briefly about that some minutes ago. More important for you as Permanent Secretary, Dr. Ajani, is the ability to send and receive data digitally from your ministry to another. Would you say this has been achieved so far?
I appreciate the question. And to answer you, the direct answer would be no, that much of that interoperability between ministries has not been achieved. And this is because of the fact that there are just a few ministries that are currently working online. I'm not even sure we have 5 ministries right now that work online. Head of service, office of the head of service, Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, Transportation, and Steel are the ones that are currently working online. And even at that, it's not at full capacity. So a lot of ministries are at various stages of implementing a digitalization work platform. So this is definitely far from what we are all dreaming of. I know in the office of the head of service, every communication is through email. But how convenient is this for those who are working online? You either have to be scanning the documents via your email attachments, or you are printing out when you get your response to put into your file to continue working. But we all see and dream of a situation where things can just drop on your platform and get integrated into your ECM platform for you to continue the workflow. And when that is achieved, then we can be talking about the fact that we are able to share data seamlessly. Yes, I'm aware of the OneGov.cloud platform. I know you asked a question to Dr. Shinkafi about the capacity building of civil servants and whether this is done by them or the ministries have to pay for these trainings. And the truth is that for every transaction you're having with Galaxy Backbone, you pay for it as a ministry. And as long as we are doing this, it's going to be very challenging for all the ministries to come on board, because we all work through an enveloped appropriation. And you have to prioritize what you need to do in your ministry, considering your core mandates. So is enterprise content management one of the mandates? Yes, it is, from both the Office of the Head of Service and the present administration priority goals. But do we have enough funding to back up this? The answer is no. Because right now, if you want to even use the OneGov ECM, is currently the most expensive of the three that are currently working in the country. And this is not sustainable. I have done a bit of computation to look at the cost implication of installing OneGov.com ECMS or Laserfish or the file trap, and OneGov. ECM, let me give you a shocking figure of the computation. It's 1.9 billion in 10 years. Laserfish is about 1 billion in 10 years. ECM is about 750 million in 10 years. This is talking about subscription of one ministry. When you now multiply that by the number of ministries we have in the country, it just doesn't make sense. It's going to be a huge amount of money. So for us to be able to implement enterprise content management service-wide, government probably has to look at other options of procuring an app that is going to be used service-wide and procure large volume of license. I believe that when we begin to do that, the cost will come down, just like they did with the IPPIS payment model. And so as ministries get up to the point of change managing themselves to use this ECM platform, they will now hook onto that license. But otherwise, to ask every ministry to do it individually, I've just thrown the figures at you. They are not figures I manipulated. I have proposals from all of them. And we have already started engaging them and looking at the cost implication of implementing this software. So much as is desirable, we need to look at the cost of deploying enterprise content management service-wide for us to be able to get value for money as a government in doing this. So that would be my bit in terms of the cost implication of doing this. Interoperability can only be achieved when we are all working from a platform that is friendly and we are handshaking or interacting with ourselves on that platform. Then we'll be able to deal with it. Even just talking about email addresses. I'm in a ministry where my staff strength is about 544, and the total number of email I have in the ministry is 67. How do I even get on enterprise content management? Yes, I know we're having this conversation with Galaxy Backbone, but I'm talking about reality of the things that we are facing to be able to deal with this. So Galaxy Backbone needs to be strongly funded by governments for ministries to be able to get onto this. Until we prioritize this as one of the things that government wants to achieve, because like I said, it's in the present administrative priorities, and also the Office of the Head of Service, the Federal Civil Service Strategic Implementation Plan, FCIP 25. So, but we need to back up our desires, our priorities with the appropriate funds, with the appropriate capacity building. Every training with Galaxy Backbone, you have to pay for it, and they are not cheap. They always tell you ICT training is expensive. So we need to seriously address the funding for this service-wide priority as a government. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajani, for that exposition. Dr. Shinkafi, having heard all that Dr. Ajani has said around payment for email addresses, payment for capacity building, payment for the software, and the OneGov platform currently being the most expensive proposal that just her ministry has received, would you say Galaxy Backbone is up to this task of supporting interoperability across ministries? I know, yes, we've answered the question of that, it falls within your purview. But with all that we've heard, are you up to the task of supporting them sustainably?
All right. I think the simple answer to that is yes. And I also appreciate the PS for coming out to address some of the concerns. It's true, technology is really not cheap. It's quite, it requires a lot of investment. And the approach that Galaxy today is making is to see that most of the services that, for whatever reason, we have to rely on getting them from, particularly, that you require Forex to get, we try to slow down on them and try to look inward and see how can we now push ourselves internally, leveraging some of the new capabilities being built in this new administration to ensure that we build adequate capacity and capabilities that will be able to design and develop consultatively solutions and services that will meet the expectations of the civil service in a seamless and also cost-effective manner. Yes, it is important to look at some of the fundings pockets, and also to look at interventions that would be coming from organizations to be able to support the government, because yes, it is really almost impossible for a particular agency to do this single-handedly. But I believe looking at a centralized approach, looking at the current strategy around FCIP implementation, where some of these interventions will be handled from the center, would actually address a silos approach where different organizations or MDS will be having different procurement at the same time. But when you have a centralized approach for the purpose of having a common approach to it, first, it will be easier to fund. And then second, it will also be, there will be more control in terms of a roadmap, in terms of evolution, and in terms of life cycling. So that strategy, actually, I think that would be a very good approach. And I see that coming from the war rooms that are currently ongoing, about 7 of them. And I like that focus. With that kind of strategy, it will be easier to handle the procurement, and it will be easier also to ensure that we're having a helicopter view of the entire civil service in terms of productivity environment, in terms of engagement, and also in terms of capacity building across all the service wide. Now, when it comes to products and different services, we first look at data sovereignty. Where do you keep this data? This data belongs to government. This data needs to be continuous, and also, the data needs to be available, to ensure that there is sustainability in government and there is also continuity in operations. Like I mentioned earlier, Galaxy is that enabler and that platform where we'll establish a marketplace such that all service providers would have an environment where agencies, because you have the agencies have common services that they leverage on, such like research and planning, administration, and some of those like HR and things like that. However, each ministry or each agency has its own mandate or has its own responsibilities. So those responsibilities will be peculiar to those organizations, and therefore you may not likely have a particular solution that will be like a straitjacket solution that is one solution fits all, but you can have a solution peculiar to those organizations where they can use the a bespoke or a customized solution to meet up with that mandate based on their own peculiarities and mode of operations. So those kind of solutions can actually coexist. And that is where each one of them will see them as a digital public goods, which can now come in as an entity into the digital public infrastructure asset, and that will allow data exchange to happen. And that is actually the future we're looking at. Once digitalization is going on, systems are being processes and workflows are being automated, and new solutions are cropping up addressing peculiarities of different ministries and agencies. So bringing them together will now give you that aggregated format and aggregated platform so that you can have seamless data exchange. So I believe, yes, Galaxy, that is the future we're looking at, and also that future is now. And we are working collaboratively with different ministries, agencies, and departments to ensure this happen. And it could only happen when there is close and very consultative discussions and engagement. And I think they are happening now. The awareness is very good and is very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shinkafi. Just a write up to your present comments, and also taking from what Dr. Ajani had mentioned earlier. I was going to ask, does it get less expensive if the solution is subscribed to by multiple ministries rather than ministries approaching you individually?
Yes, okay, so that is the approach, I believe, because when you have each organization coming in to subscribe to some number of licensing, cannot be the same when you have a bundle bouquet of license that is meant to address everybody. So you are dealing with an entity, and the entity is meant to address everybody. So definitely the cost cannot be the same. And I believe it is cheaper, and that is a very good strategy and approach, which I believe would help. So rather than allowing everybody to go in picking information individually, it will be difficult because somehow you may not be able to move at the same time, and therefore there will be a challenge in even meeting certain deadlines. But once capacity building is done at once, deployment is also implemented seamlessly, simultaneously, at the same time across different agencies, and onboarding is also happening within the same roadmap. It will be easier for adoption, it is easier for change management, and then it is easier also for seamless transmission and transaction. And that will be a more cost-effective approach to the digitalization, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that being the case, I then wonder why then are ministries not taking this approach? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it a lack of belief? Why are ministries still going ahead to, make their own individual procurements? Dr. Ajani, as somebody heading a ministry currently and also being involved in this kind of procurement process, what, in your opinion, would you say the challenges are?
Okay, for us to be able to say that we want to do this collectively, the first question to answer is, who is that entity that is doing the procurement? And have they started that central procurement? For now, no, they haven't started the central procurement. Whether it's going to be happening from Galaxy Backbone or Ministry of Information and Digital Economy, or it's going to be happening from the Office of the Head of Service, there has to be an entity that is going to take responsibility for this. So I know that the conversation has started, like Dr. Shinkafi mentioned, and war rooms have been created to see the best way to achieve this. I know the present head of service of the Federation is already thinking about this central procurement for the app that will work for everybody. It actually even started with Dr. Folashade Yemi-Esan, because I happen to have been the PAMSEC special duties that oversaw enterprise content management and innovation towards the close of our administration. And I know I've engaged the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy to look at all these issues surrounding digitization and digitalization of workflow. And so that conversation has started. Are we all going to just wait till this happens? Or we all start individually and hope that when this centralized procurement is achieved, we can all get hooked onto it? So I think that's the approach that the civil service is looking at right now. Individually, do what you can do as a ministry, get people to embrace this new workflow, get your own app and work with it, preferably an indigenous customized app, so you can tweak it around to meet our own needs because of the peculiarity of our civil service and our workflows, rather than get a ready-made app that you really can't do much of tweaking with. So that is what is happening, and we're hoping that in the near future, not too far from now, we should be able to say that yes, there's a centrally procured app, there's a central platform for all of us to work on, and we can migrate our data to that platform, and then we all begin to work simultaneously and touching with ourselves. So I think eventually we get there. I forgot to also mention that Ministry of Finance is already working digitally. So the numbers are scaling up by the day. And we just hope that as these conversations have started, those that should make provision for this, we make adequate provision for us to be transiting to a one platform or a platform that is interoperable by all the ministries for us to improve in our service delivery and productivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ajani. The federal government seems to be doing its bit to establish a more accountable and transparent public service. While Dr. Shinkafi was speaking, he has alluded multiple times to the benefits of private sector partnerships in driving their work in Galaxy Backbone. I would like to ask you, Dr. Ajani, having listened also to you speak about the huge gaps that you met within the Ministry of Interior and also the challenges you met in your previous ministries, which you successfully were able to close to a reasonable extent. How can the private and non-profit sectors help?
Thank you so much. We have enumerated all the challenges that we are facing with this new work platform. New to the public service and the civil service in particular, but I know it's not new to the private sector because quite a number of them work on digital platforms. And what I always say is that an efficient civil service has an impacting effect on both the private sector and the country as a whole. And so for those who have been doing it in the private sector, I always will say, come to Macedonia and help us. And what are the kind of helps we are looking at? We are looking at effective collaboration where you are supporting us to achieve the world best practices, bringing in the innovation and efficient service management that you have been able to deploy in the private sector. Support us in change management, culture management, risk management assessment, and even the prevention, and these are things that I know the private sector are very good at. They've learned it over the years. We don't have so much of it in the civil service, and we would want a situation where those collaborations will come in. I mean, look at the robust relationship we've had with AIG over the years, trying to implement the Federal Civil Service strategic plan. I was there before AIG came in and after AIG came in, and we can all attest to the quantum leap that FCIP achieved with this partnership. So we want more people to come in. We want more people to handhold us in capacity building, in ICT, in communication skills. We need those collaboration to change our mindset from our usual manual processes to digital processes. We want those mindsets in managing the risk associated with this new phase of our work. We want the private people to come in and help advocate for us and to all our stakeholders to look at this new work platform that we are bringing to life. And above all, we need financial support. We need resource persons to train and retrain us. So it's something that is very important. It's a call for help. It's a call for private people to invest their funding to build a more viral and effective civil service so that all of us can achieve much more than we are doing currently. So I will never stop saying, come to Macedonia and help us in the civil service, the private sector, the NGOs. Please come in. We need you to be able to achieve this. Thank you so much.
This has been such an engaging conversation. We've heard about the efforts of the federal government to ensure that service delivery is transformed and the public can access more and more services faster and more efficiently from remote locations. We have also heard about Galaxy Backbone's efforts in public sector digitalisation, ensuring that ministries are able to finish well in the race to December 2025. Another key point that stands out in this is the shared responsibility between the public and private sectors to ensure the success of public sector digitalisation. Here at the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation, we are committed to being a bridge builder for collaborations as we continue our mission to transform public service delivery. Your voice, your expertise, your time, and your resources matter. Share your ideas to help shape the future of public service in this digital age. Thank you again to Dr. Ajani and Dr. Shinkafi for joining us today. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in to another episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and let us know what you think of this episode.
This has been an episode of the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation podcast. Remember to subscribe, share, and leave us a review if you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, stay inspired and remember that together we can build a brighter Africa.